Hi, aloha, and welcome to the Empowered Empath podcast. My name is Jennifer O'Neill.
And I'm Michelle Schneider. And I just want to take this moment to remind everybody that before we jump into the topic today, if you like today's podcast, to please like the video. If you have any questions that come up during it, be sure to leave those in the comments. And as always, make sure that you're subscribed and click the notification bell so you do not miss any future podcasts.
Yes, that's very, very important. And as always, we do read the comments. So that's going to be important if you're wanting to talk to us about anything and that sort of thing. So we're going to talk a little bit about empath health. And actually, that works perfectly into my week with energy report as well. But it works perfectly into my week because I am currently in the process of writing an empath book that I thought was going to be one, but it got so large it turned into two. And then I was like, why is this taking me so long to write? And my son was like, well, how long does it normally take you to write? And I'm like, 3 weeks. And he goes, that's absurd.
It is absurd. You got to cut yourself some slack because not everybody writes a book. Nobody writes a book that fast.
I know. And I don't know why that I just have these high expectations for myself. But to be fair, I have written books in the past in 3 weeks, 4 weeks maximum. However, I have way more clients right now than I had then. So there's that. I have a lot of mentorship clients right now. And so I'm kind of juggling between the two. So, if you're interested in looking into that or any of the stuff that I do as far as readings, any of that, just make sure you go to the Keys to the Spirit World, not the keys to the spiritworld.com. And that's where all my information on that stuff is. But yes, so I've been very filled with clients. And when I started writing, and this is just, law of attraction manifesting, I guess, on accident. I told my husband I'm going to probably, I'm not really going to take on any more mentorship clients at this time. I'm just going to focus on writing. And that week, 5 new ones came in. And the week after that, 3 more new ones came in. And for some reason, I have this weak spot about helping people when it comes to spiritual stuff. So apparently I have no boundaries and I just took the clients anyways.
Well, I'm the same way because I mean, every time I'm like, okay, for real this time, no more marketing clients. I'm done. And then I'll get somebody that will email me the next day being like, oh, we really want to work with you.
Yes. Yes, you just did that too after I did. And it's funny because I think a lot of times when people are building businesses or building clientele and doing all those things, when you have clients as entrepreneurs, you do, I do, you have to market to the clients as well. And, let people know you're out there and you get some in and then some, you're done with their projects and then they leave. And I'm like, I had no idea. All you had to do is just focus on something else. And the next thing you know, you're just like kind of going, whoa, where did all these people come from? So that was a really good manifestation trick, is say you're not going to do it just like you did. You did the same thing. It's happened to both of us. It's crazy. But that being said, a lot of the struggles that I've noticed with my clients recently, and something that me and you have talked about, is surrounding empath health. And I have a lot to say about this because a lot of this is in my book as well, except for it's in a lot more detail and would take many, many hours. That being said, empaths don't realize how much that their health is affected just by having the simple ability to be able to read other people's energy. And I would like to back up a second because I feel like a lot of people do not quite understand what an empath is. I feel like that is a term that has been thrown around now so generically that people are kind of confused about the definition of being an empath and what it actually means, because there's a lot more to this ability than oh, I can feel if somebody's sad. I can feel if somebody's, depressed or happy or whatever. I feel like that's what people think it is. And then if you take it one step further, they go, "Oh, that's why I have anxieties," or "I can sense people's energy in a room." Those are all good and well, but that's so surfacey of being an empath. That's such a small portion that it's actually kind of mind-boggling if you get into understanding what it is. And it truthfully is the ability to read energy. And that means all energy. It's not just people energy. People energy is typically the strongest energy that you're around, especially if you're pretty rooted in your physical body. That's the thing that's going to be the strongest and is going to bring your awareness to the surface the most. But you do have the ability as an empath to read all energies, astral energy, nature stuff, earth energy, any energy at all. Well, everything in existence is made of energy. So now you can see, if you think about it in those terms, it's not just people energy, but you literally have the ability to read and be sensitive to all energies, which means basically everything that you're surrounded by in existence, period. That alone is super overwhelming. So it's pretty understandable that it affects your health and or can affect your health. So it's pretty understandable that empaths get overwhelmed, they have anxieties and that sort of thing. What I think a big mistake is they do focus it more towards people and they don't realize that there's, a lot more to it. However, that is a good place to start. It's a good place to understand how people do affect your energy and the responses within your physical body because you are around certain people and you will have a physiological response oftentimes depending on who you're around and depending upon the energy that they're projecting, or more importantly, the intent behind who they are, actions that they're taking, things that they're saying, etc. And I think, why don't you share your story about that a little bit, just so that people can understand one of the things, and then I'll get into that a little
Yeah,
bit
well,
more.
I have a couple stories. I'm gonna start with one that is a little bit more. It was not as intense, and then we'll go into the intense one. So, a
Okay.
quick example of like when I really started to notice something and like connecting a lot of dots, and I've been connecting, I feel like a lot of dots in the past few months of like really realizing, oh, there's a lot more to this.
You've moved on to the advanced connect the dots color book, right? Like you're in the big numbers now.
But
Okay.
I remember there was, like, one instance where I was going to kind of like a friend gathering. We were watching a Chiefs game, and I remember going over there, and I was fine, before I went over there, get to the
Mhm,
place, and then I started feeling sick. I started feeling
mhm,
nauseous. I
mhm.
started feeling like, "Oh my god, I think I ate something that was wrong?"
Yep.
But I
Mhm,
was picking up on something that was a little bit deeper. I could just feel this deep, deep unhappiness, and
mhm,
I didn't really quite know who it was coming from. And then I kind of even got impressions about it was job related. And I was there for several hours, didn't feel great. By the time I got in my car and left, I was fine.
mhm,
And then it comes to, find out later down the road, there was a person there who, like, was really just kind of distraught over their job and was
mhm.
planning on, like, leaving. It was kind of like a big shift in their life, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, okay, this makes sense," of, like, that was something I was definitely picking up on, and I think
Yeah,
a
it
lot of
wasn't
times.
like the cheese dip. It
No, it wasn't the cheese dip. I didn't eat any bad cheese. It was
Yes, but no, people do, they think certain things like that sometimes. If they go into a place and they get nauseous, they don't know how to relate to what's happening. You go into a restaurant, you go into, somebody's house, a party, or an event that's filled with a lot of people. The first thing that they typically will notice is anxiety if you're in like an event or there's a lot of people and there's a lot of energies coming at you. There's people who are excited, people who are sad, people who are, frustrated, other people who are just chilling there. Like there's a whole mixture pot of energies, but just the sheer volume of energies can give you an overwhelming feeling or a sense of anxiety. And a lot of times people do not relate that to an empathic gift or the ability to read energy. They relate it to just anxiety. They're just like, oh, I have social anxiety, but they don't understand the root of the issue there and what causes that. In a smaller group, such as you were in, that's a little bit easier because you can receive pictures and kind of get a sense of what's happening. But go into your
Yeah.
second story.
Yeah, so I mean, while that was really tame, the other kind of thing of like, and I will say that I was pretty significantly ill, for the past few years, and
Mhm,
even prior to that, starting back into like 2007.
mhm.
And I have a testimonial on your spiritual boot camp website. If
Right.
somebody really wanted to like learn more about that experience of like what I was going through,
Yeah.
but I was, starting to date what is now my ex-husband, and it was really shortly after I started dating him, I got diagnosed with gastroparesis. Now, as to was he the cause of it? I don't know, but I mean, he was not a good person. So I was
There's that.
severely ill, like for several years, being in that relationship. Like
Mhm.
I was thinking too, I was like, I don't know what finally turned it around. And then I'd love to get your opinion on this. I remember I started getting better in 2010.
Mhm.
I had been told they're like, you're either going to have this gastroparesis for the rest of your life, or, your nerves will regenerate in about 3 years and you'll start to like turn a corner, which was, 2010 was about 3 years. But what else
Right.
happened in 2010? I started taking antidepressants. I had medication for anxiety episodes, and
Mm.
I was basically just numbing myself from
Okay.
any of those emotions. So I was like,
Yeah.
was that just kind of masking that problem because of I'm assuming that I was absorbing so much like negativity
But
and
also, when did you end up getting divorced?
2013.
So it was another couple years after that as
Yeah,
well. Okay.
because I got married in 2010.
So what typically happens, and one of the things that I'm noticing a lot of people doing right now, which I we do need to get into soul identity more, and we'll do that on another podcast, hopefully the next one. I notice that when people, especially when I'm doing the healing work, the stuff that you were talking about, I notice that people are starting to, or not starting to, they have within their life made themselves sick when there's some type of discord that they are experiencing. And what that means is, I'm going to use a an opposite example, and then I will tell you how that would relate to yours. If you have um, a life that you're going along just fine or whatever, and things seem to be normal, your health seems to be pretty good, then at some point in time, you start not feeling well along the line. Let's say you lived your life the same way for 15 or 20 years, and then all of a sudden you start not feeling well. I'm seeing a huge correlation right now to that person's soul identity shifting, a spiritual awakening, an empath awakening happening. When you're in alignment with whether it's a low vibrational frequency, a high, I don't care the range of the frequency. But if you're in alignment with whatever you're doing in your life at that moment in time, the body doesn't seem to respond. We don't have the emotional body having some resentments, frustration necessarily so much because they you're aligned with whatever it is. Then a lot of times when you have some type of spiritual awakening, it shifts the body's frequency, I would say. And when that body's frequency shifts and they are no longer in alignment with the energy of the relationship or their job or anything like that, the body then will start to respond. And the reason that I'm bringing this particular thing up is because I've been seeing a lot of clients and noticing it quite a bit lately within my healings, where everybody was just going along just fine. And then all of a sudden, they hit a curb of some type of physical health issue. And there's definitely a correlation to an awakening, an empath awakening, a spiritual awakening, a shifting of their vibration. So they are no longer the person that they were prior to this physical event. So they were different then than they are now. And when those two frequencies kind of collide in a sense, your frequency shifted, maybe it shifted to a higher place, because that's what I'm noticing is people who have went from a lower vibrational frequency to a higher one, they start noticing some physical issues sometimes, just because their life that they've built for themselves no longer matches their frequency. So now we have a discord, and that means there has to be some change in your life and to change that. Now, when I look at it from a healing perspective on what you were talking about, that would be more along the lines of you are experiencing discord within the relationship early on.
Yeah.
So something within your vibrational frequency, or even just deep down, you knew that there was some issues with the relationship. Something within your being, your intuitive senses, the red flags, they were going off, but your brain's like, yeah, no, 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 we're good. You know, he's XYZ, or justifying things somehow. That's what the brain does. It typically tries to justify if you're stubbornly moving forward, regardless of what the body's doing. So then it would continue to react. Then later on, yes, antidepressants and things like that, it will numb your frequency, I guess I would say. It numbs your alignment somewhat. Now, I'm not against, let's just be really clear. I'm not against antidepressants. I'm not against anti-anxiety medication. I think that that can work incredibly well for people. My assumption, though, is at some point during that time, you had just sort of given up your stronger frequency that you had before then. And so you just gave in to the dominant frequency that was basically trying to consume you. And so when you give into that, like even if you're in a toxic relationship and you're just like, whatever, this is going to be my life now, there's a way that your body can give into that and sort of align with toxic frequency and toxic energy. And you're no longer having this crash of two different frequencies and the discord, because you're just like, you sort of give up emotionally and mentally. You're just like, it is what it is. I'm not fighting against this anymore. So that would be my guess as to how that happened, if that makes sense. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
it does. Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I was a pretty dark place, you know. I really was just kind of at a place where I wanted just to give up
Yeah.
completely. But
Well, there you go, and that makes sense, because your resistance just went completely down. You aligned with whatever energy was around at the time. Um, then there's the part about just being able to feel that other person's emotions too, which also will affect you on a physical level. So it's kind of a double whammy, and either way, they're not good. So whether you are around somebody who is terrible as far as emotional intent and how that they're treating you, or your internal being is just like, there's so many things wrong with this, I can't even get them all to you in this moment. Either way, it doesn't matter, because it's affecting your emotional body and your physical body.
yeah.
I know that um people who knew me when I was younger, and there was a time that I had stopped talking to my mom for a long period of time. It had gotten to the point where, because of my empath abilities, I was sick to my stomach anytime I had contact with her, like severely. I had gone to several doctors. This was also the time that I started learning about who was affecting me, when it got worse, how to navigate through your health as an empath. And this was a very important time frame for me, which all this stuff is in the books that I'm writing. So you'll be able to hear and see all of that information that you can then correlate to your life. It's not my story, it's what I did. So it's a very informative book on empathic health and whatnot. So I had to not talk to her anymore, not have contact with her anymore. And when you do that with somebody who's in your family or that your family wants to see you with, like maybe a spouse or a loved one or whatever, it doesn't go well. People in the family do not like that. They just lose their friggin' mind. And this is something that you need to consider because, first of all, everybody's personalities are different. So if somebody has this effect on you that causes an actual physical response within your emotional body, which then goes into your physical body, to where you know that it is affecting your health because of either toxicity or their intention or whatever that may be. You have to make your own decision based upon your personal relationship with that person. It is mind-boggling to me how much that people who have been friends for a really long time or they're blood related, how much that the people in your life will really try to force you down that path of keeping those people in your life because it makes them comfortable. And the situation with that is those people might be entirely different people that they don't have near the same effect on, especially if they're not an empath. And that is something that just empaths need to accept and or be aware of, because if there's somebody in your life that you feel like makes you not feel well for any of those reasons that we talked about, and everybody else is going, yeah, but it's your so and so, there's blood related whatever, those people are probably not empaths, and or they have a very different personality. So I'm like, you just go ahead, you go ahead and hang out with them all you want to. I'm not trying to, have you not have a relationship with these people. I'm literally trying to save myself. So it's really interesting. People lost their mind when I stopped speaking with my mother. Literally lost their mind. It was the most bizarre experience. And it went on for years, not just the first year. 10 years later, I had people going, why wouldn't you talk to her? And I'm thinking, are you kidding me right now? Like, but I knew that they didn't have the full answer, and I knew that they didn't know what had gone on, and I wasn't the person to talk so much stuff. I just would say, "It's not healthy for me." And that's what you can tell people. It's not healthy for you. And you really need to be able to monitor your own relationships, whether they're friends, family, whatever. But you were gonna go into the next story.
Yeah, so I think where all of the dots really started to connect was my recent relationship that I was in. I
Mhm.
was dating somebody, and I will say that my health was a little rocky before I started dating him. There were a lot of things that were going on in my life. Very stressed out. My dog was kind of at the end of his road. It was like
Yes.
every single day I was like watching him die slowly. It was hard stuff that I
Yeah.
was going through. So then, I'm starting to date this new guy, which I'm really excited about. I liked him so much. And it was just weird because there were things that I just could feel when I was around him. Like it was anxiety on a whole new level that I've
Mhm.
never felt before, and, like, to the point where I could not eat food in front of him. As bizarre as that was, and I couldn't understand it. I was like, I could go eat lunch with anybody else and be just
Yep.
fine.
Yep.
The minute that I got in front of him, I wanted to vomit. It wasn't just a I'm not hungry, don't wanna eat. It's
Mhm.
like 10 seconds away from I'm going to vomit. There was a time that I actually did get sick, in front of him,
Wonderful.
but it was so frustrating, and of course, I'm, like, completely internalizing this on myself and being like, "What is wrong with me?
Mhm.
Why why am I sick again?" It didn't make any sense to me, and it was, like,
Right.
so frustrating. And, it finally I ended the relationship, but I will say that it took maybe like 1 or 2 months after I ended it,
Mhm,
I have 0 problems now. Like, for the
mhm.
first time in a very, very long time, I feel completely normal. I feel healthy, I feel good, and I think this is where the dots started to connect, because
Connect,
I'm like,
yes.
"Oh my god, I think he was actually kind of contributing to my illness."
You think?
I
Did
think.
you really just say, "I think"? I'm unsure,
I
I'm still
know,
on
I
the
don't wanna
fence.
admit it to myself because it feels like my body was betraying me, because my mind, I wanted that to work so
Your
badly.
mind was betraying you, not the body. The body was very clear.
I know, the body was very clear. I mean,
The
it's
body was very clear. That's the problem we have with the mind. But when you look back, what do you feel like you recognize now that might have been the issue?
I mean, there were things that communication, boundaries, I mean, things that we probably needed to talk about up front. Like, I do not think he's a bad guy. Like, I think he's a good guy.
Oh,
I
no, no,
just
no. Yeah, I don't think that he was, he not a no toxicity as far,
Yeah,
none
we're
of those
talking
things.
night and day from
Right.
my ex-husband to this guy. He's a
Which
good
is
guy.
also a good point.
Yeah.
This is a very good point because sometimes when you're not addressing things within your relationships or you are feeling that you are not on the same page and or you sense that maybe they're not expressing some of the feelings that might make you unhappy or uncomfortable, these you all feel this energetically. you know if someone's staying silent about, like, maybe they want out of the relationship or maybe they're second guessing it but they don't want to have that conversation because they don't want to rock the boat, when you're an empath, this, you
Yeah.
can sense it. And that's why I was telling you, I find this interesting because somebody had asked me this. Something about, I can't remember how this was framed, but it had something to do with somebody saying something. And I said, I've never paid attention to what anybody says. Like, yes, I hear them, but I don't read anything into what a person says. I feel them energetically, I feel the intent behind it, and I don't care about your words or your actions, but the energy doesn't lie ever. Energy does not lie. You cannot manipulate energy. As an empathic person, if I was to walk into a room and try to fake my energy, yeah, forget about it. You're never going to be able to do that. Can you fake a smile? Yes. Can you fake conversation? 100%. In fact, I feel like people grow up learning how to do this to please other people, to please teachers, to please your parents, then to please loved ones. You do not want to upset anybody. So you learn to manipulate the visuals. You learn to manipulate the verbal, the audio, but you cannot manipulate the energy. Your energy doesn't lie. That is also why people have a hard time with manifestation, is because energy doesn't lie. So you can tell yourself, or when you're thinking about, no, I'm in alignment with this, or I'm happy where I'm at, or I really am just completely letting go of this, and your energy says something else. Yeah, it's your brain that has to get on board with the energy, not the energy that has, well, I guess it could go either way. But you need to be aware that just because you can't fake it till you make it as far as energy goes. I mean, you
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
try, but what you really need to do is get in there and resolve your energetic feelings about whatever it is. Then we can be in alignment. But energy, it will not and does not lie. It can't and it won't. It's just the way it is. And
Yeah.
so that's something that's kind of interesting that I think that people overlook. So when I have readings, when I have mentorships, when I do any of those things, and people will ask me about something, and a lot of times they want to justify what that person said or this person said. And I'm like, I could care less if they were talking about crocheting, or when they went to the beach, or they want to leave their job. That none of that matters to me. I look into their energy and what their intent is. And that's how I can tell what a person is veering towards doing, or et cetera, et cetera. That's also the way I work with healing so as well. I have a lot of clients that, actually most clients, I have yet to have one client come in. I really narrowed this down real quick, that knew exactly what they were experiencing energetically. They always come in going, yeah, I'm pretty sure I know where this stems from. And I'm always like, I hear this a lot. I have yet to have one person be right. And they'll be like, okay. And I'm thinking, I hope that you're right. I hope you kind of know. But and the truth of the matter is, if they really did know, they probably wouldn't be coming in to see me either, because then they would have been able to resolve it, right? So nobody's ever right. So whether you're reading your own body or somebody else's, it just doesn't lie. That's, I think, a really huge key takeaway with this,
Yeah,
is
I'm never
understanding that.
not going to be listening to my body again, like, it's clearly yelling at me.
Mhm.
It's just I was refusing to listen.
And that, to be clear, when I say energy doesn't lie, that is symptomatic of you reading energy and exchanging energy with a person, place, or whatever.
And I always think
The
I've been
body
really
responding.
good at reading other people's energy. Like, I'm usually the person where, like, I remember there was a time at work and I could tell that, like, we an art director, I knew they were pissed off and everyone was like, "Oh yeah, it's fine. It's whatever." And I'm like, "No, that guy's mad, but he's putting on a smile." Like, I can always pick up on that stuff. And like, or when a friend is talking to me and I'm like, you're BSing me. I know you're not, being
Yeah,
genuine.
but your heart's not invested, and that's the difference.
Yeah.
Once your heart gets invested, your compass is off.
Yeah.
Your empath compass is moving around in a circle when your heart's invested. So that's a good time to take a moment to pull back. And that's also a good time to kind of do like an energetic gauge or inventory of, how do I feel when I'm around them? Am I feeling happy? Am I not feeling happy? Do I feel drained? Do I feel energized? Like, is my quality of life enhanced by being with this person, or is it not? That's a very simple way to determine. Is my quality of life enhanced? If something happens during those exchanges, where when you get home or during that time your quality of life has not been enhanced, you're drained, you're tired, you're upset, you don't feel well physically, then that's a very clear indicator. So that would be a good way to determine if your heart is invested without having to use your compass. you know what's it doing to your quality of life? What's that relationship doing? And then you can learn how to manage that relationship depending upon who that person is in your life. Then we have to work on energetic management, which, again, I won't get into that full thing because that's a whole podcast. However, it will be in the book, so I have a lot of that stuff in there. And so, yeah, does that, I feel like that we did good with empathic health. I would like to point out, though, um, that it's not just people that can affect your health as far as energy goes and as far as being an empath. It can be a lot of different things. It can be your place of work. It could be the people who are at your work, which again is people. It could be choices that you're making, because you can sense energy when you're making a choice as well. You can feel intuitively, is this a good way to go, or is this a good way to go? And a lot of times, because that whole brain interference, thinking it knows everything, we go against the energetic flow and we go towards energetic resistance. And if you can continue to make and continuously make choices towards resistance, energetic blockages, energetic resistance, and energetic hill, whatever that you want to call it, if you continuously do that, the body is going to feel a certain type of way. It's going to react towards constantly moving towards blocks and rocks and resistance and, you know, strangling type energy. It's going to react if it's not in a flow, if it's not moving with intensity, if it's not feeling um, free and movement. So the
It
body will
really
also
is,
react.
yeah, it really is like having the ultimate, like, GPS system in your body, being
Yes.
empathic. You just gotta
Yes, it
learn how
is.
to read the gauges.
Yes. Yes, it is. But it's also interesting how much, how I explain this to people a lot of times. You want to imagine it like you have a spiritual compass, but a lot of people have a magnet real close to that compass, and it just makes the compass not be able to pick a direction for you. And that magnet is usually your belief system, other people around you, your 3D body, and being very tuned into what you want to happen in your life, trying to micromanage things, using your brain to determine what that compass is going to say. The brain can get involved after the compass gives you a direction. Then you can use the brain and its knowledge to make good choices and to kind of go through and filter through all the information that you have and how you would do things and how you would move with that energy flow. Then we can utilize the brain's knowledge. But it doesn't have access to what's driving the compass at all. And if you try to manipulate the compass, like I said, energy doesn't lie. It's like putting a magnet real close to the compass that you will just get zero direction. You'll be like, I have no idea what to do. I'm totally confused. I don't know how to pick a lane. I don't know how to make a choice. And then you have to rely on the brain because now you're just filtering through information of the best probable choice at that time. And those are typically based on fear, worry, and all the scary things that people told you when you were growing up. So that's not the best option. The best option is to remove the magnet, which means, the outer voice of people. It means the brain and all of its knowledge. It means not being around people that their energetic is really going to mess with you. Their desires are going to mess with you. Fear and worry, that'll just break your compass. Like, yeah. So we have to eliminate those and tune into the spiritual body and then trust the indicators. Then we use our knowledge based upon that.
Yeah.
So all right. Well, hopefully you found this helpful. There's going to be a lot more information on empath health and, all the things that we just talked about here. Energy management, that's going to be very important. If you know you're an empath, and relationships, all that's going to be covered. But you do want to understand what it means to be an empath, that you're reading all energy of all things, not just people, also circumstances, experiences, things of that nature. And also, if your body is starting to react some type of way within any type of relationship, look for a pattern. Watch for that. That's one indicator, because you're going to notice there are typically patterns that will emerge. If that's somebody that you're living with, that's a little bit more difficult. So then you're going to want to sort through that on, is this enhancing my quality of life or is it hindering my quality of life? And that would be a way to start navigating through that. But all health issues, I just want to say typically, I'll just stick with most all health issues will stem from the emotional body. And as empaths, there's a lot going on in our emotional body. So we have to really pay attention to what's happening there. Other people who are not as sensitive with their emotional body, they're not going to have such extreme reactions within the physical body, within their energetic environment. So that's something to know. But like I said, once I get that empath book out, I will let you know, but watch for it because it's going to hold a lot of good information. So until next time, do you want to give the
Yeah, just a
reminder?
quick reminder to, if you liked today's podcast, to please like the video and leave your questions in the comments, and make sure that you're subscribed so that you don't miss the next one.
Yes. And if you're an empath, comment below. We would like to see how many empaths are out there. Definitely comment below and let us know. Just put empath, and we will see who's out there, who's an empath. All right. Until next time, have the most amazing day. Aloha. Bye.
Bye.